Your risk of all of the chronic diseases of aging, how healthily you age, and how powerful you're able to be in your life in general are all affected by how well you sleep. Good sleep is a tremendous advantage to all areas of your life, but unfortunately elusive for over 50% of American adults and up to 80% of perimenopausal women. There are so many good and effective tools to try for improving sleep. And while it's great to have options, they can make sleep seem like a harder problem to solve than it really is. Different problems have different solutions, and sleep is no exception. Where to focus your resources gets way easier to decide once you understand the 4 aspects of sleep and which one of them is tripping you up. Poor sleep is absolutely a solvable problem and so worth the effort to finally figure out. And you won't have to do so by randomly guessing anymore. You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 266, Why You Can't Sleep. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that the years right around the time of menopause are the most critical time to lay the foundation for health and strength in her 70s, 80s, and beyond. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to the episode today. I hope that you are doing so great and having a great summer. I hope you like summer and are enjoying yourself. I hate it so much, and I can't wait for the infernal heat and gnashing of teeth to finally be over. Every year, I wish so much that I had a summer house somewhere way closer to the Arctic Circle. I really hope that someday I stop talking about it and actually do something about it. Then I would finally feel like a self-actualized person. We recently went on a family vacation to McCall, Idaho, and it was so lovely. I fell in love and now have it in my mind as the ideal summer locale. It was in the upper 60s when we were there, but it looks like today it's about 85 degrees there, which is still too hot, but better than the 102 degrees that it is where I am. How's your screening protocol going? Have you decided a health test you can try to get some good insight into how to prevent what everyone else considers normal nuisances of aging? If you do, you'll have a very different experience of life in your 60s, 70s, and 80s than most people do. It just takes being a little more vigilant and prudent now to get colossal benefits in the future. Okay, there's not much more annoying than lying awake again when you want nothing more in the world than to be blissfully dreaming about getting your professional tricycle riding license or training an army of seahorses or not having any teeth or whatever it is you dream about. It seems word is finally getting around about how crucial quality sleep is to your overall health. We talked all about it way back in episode 49, Sleep is Not a Pillar of Health. It's the foundation the other pillars rest on. When you sleep poorly, you not only feel worse the next day, you are physiologically worse. Poor sleep increases your hunger hormones, increases your blood sugar, increases your whole body inflammation, decreases your immune system function, decreases your ability to heal, decreases your ability to build muscle and bone strength, increases your long-term risk of dementia, increases your cancer risk, increases your cardiovascular risks, and pretty much everything else that you don't want to have happen to you as you age. But what about when you're all in on doing whatever it takes to achieve those benefits? You turn off all your electronic devices, take your ashwagandha, diffuse lavender into the room, listen to the sound of the ocean, and still spend hours staring at the smoke detector light in the ceiling every night. It's so annoying. You can make yourself do a lot of things. You can move your body in all kinds of deliberate ways. You can stop a sneeze if you really need to. You can get rid of your hiccups. You can force yourself to wake up when you really don't want to, but you cannot sleep on command. Sleep should be as automatic as digestion is after eating something, but for a lot of us, it's not. So annoying. And what makes it worse is that the problem is so common that there are a mind-numbing number of magical sounding things to try. So you're left feeling like you need to try everything that possibly exists, getting your hopes up that this will finally be the thing that actually helps, only to be disappointed again. and stuck with a $400 device or bottle of pills that doesn't work. There are calming scented candles, bath bombs, prescription pills, bamboo viscose pajamas, eye masks, red glasses, mouth tape, supplements, meditation apps, you name it. Solutions are good, but only if we have a logical framework to sort them through. Trial and error is a normal part of good problem solving, but not when the problem is defined too broadly, which is the way we tend to approach sleep problems. It's kind of like someone saying, I have toe pain trouble, and then just launching into some potentially great solutions. You should put some burn cream on your toe. That really helped my son. You should pull the bee stinger out. That really helped my sister. You should get hammer toe surgery. That really helped my grandma. You should get ingrown toenail surgery. That really helped my dad. You should ice it for 15 minutes at a time every hour. That really helped me. You should try some ibuprofen. You should elevate it. You should buy different shoes. You should get on IV antibiotics. You should get it amputated. All of these are potentially viable solutions, but it depends on the specific problem that needs solving. Toe pain is too broad a term to start the trial and error process, and so is trouble sleeping. But that's not how most people try to come up with sleep solutions. Good thing you're not like most people. I learned this framework of how to think about sleep and resolving sleep problems from Dr. Peter Attia. I always love a good, logical, reproducible framework. Life is so much better when it can be organized, don't you think? Even if the organization system isn't perfect, in my opinion, it's always better than no system at all. Since we can't sleep on command, all we can do is create the optimal conditions for our body to spontaneously produce sleep. And sleep is not just unconsciousness. Sleep is a dynamic biologic process that needs to happen one stage after another throughout the night. Each stage of sleep does something different, yet vitally important to our health. Waste clearance from your brain, physical restoration, wound and other healing, muscle growth, gut healing, memory consolidation, organization of information, emotional healing, all kinds of amazing things that happen during proper sleep, but not sedation or mere unconsciousness. There are 4 main components of sleep: sleep drive or sleep pressure, circadian timing, arousal level, and sleep architecture or stages of restorative sleep. Most of the frustration with trying things and having them, quote, not work for you come from using a perfectly good solution to the wrong problem, like getting ingrown toenail surgery when what you really need is to take the bee stinger out. Once you know your toe pain isn't from your shoes, you can ignore the deluge of information about shoe manufacturing and fitting, even though it is true. Likewise, with the 4 components of sleep, all the stuff about being at the optimal temperature in order to sleep well, that's true, but if that's not your problem, you don't need to focus on buying a $4,000 cooling mattress topper, even if it's fabulous. You can if you want to, just don't expect it to be the end of your sleep problems if it's solving a problem that you don't have. Okay, so first up, sleep drive or sleep pressure. How's yours? Mine is robust. My family can verify that I have no problem getting sleepy at night. You've probably heard before that you slowly accumulate a pressure to sleep throughout the day due to adenosine accumulation in your brain, and that caffeine blocks adenosine receptors, not causing wakefulness, but blocking sleepfulness. If you don't feel sleepy at your preferred bedtime, or you can't fall asleep when you go to bed, you might have a sleep pressure problem. Some people feel sleepy during the day, but too wakeful at night, or they can only fall asleep for a few minutes or hours, and then they wake back up. Causes of not having enough sleep pressure could be sleeping in too late, taking naps during the day. That's a tricky one because while naps are fine for some people, if you're attempting to cultivate more fervent sleep pressure, you don't want to let some of the adenosine steam escape during the day by taking a nap. Probably the most common disruptor of adenosine sleep drive is caffeine. Use it more wisely or not at all, and your adenosine system will be more regulated. Chronic caffeine use upregulates adenosine receptors, causing you to need higher and higher doses of caffeine just to function normally. Adenosine is a byproduct of cellular metabolism, so the more active and alert you are during the day, the more adenosine buildup you get in your brain. In his book, Pain Free, Pete Egoscue says that he thinks a lot of the widespread sleep problems amongst the population is due to underusing our bodies or not demanding they do enough physical work. I don't remember how he put it and thought it was just his opinion, but it really jumped out at me when I read that book many years ago. I always thought it rang true, but there are in fact many studies that show that as cellular energy is consumed during physical exertion, adenosine accumulates more abundantly in the brain, adding to the biological drive to sleep and allowing the brain to fall asleep faster and also reach deeper, more restorative stages of sleep at night. There are also some studies to show that intense mental exertion and heavy cognitive tasks also increase extracellular adenosine. Interestingly, the effect seems to be region-specific, like intensive visual learning increases sleep pressure primarily in the visual cortex rather than the entire brain. Kind of weird. If you were to do cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which we talked about in episode 221, Stop Letting Sleeplessness Age You, they systematically work through each of these sleep processes, which is why it's pretty much guaranteed to work if you actually do it. And for building up sleep pressure, you go through this whole involved process of picking a bedtime, which will probably be later than you want it to be, and forcing yourself to stay awake till then, even if that means sitting on a cold wooden stool all evening so you don't accidentally fall asleep on the couch. Sleep pressure, essential for falling asleep and partially for staying asleep long enough to get into deeper stages of sleep. Next up is circadian timing. This is where most of the sleep improvement recommendations you hear fall, which is lovely. Circadian timing is super important, and ours gets way messed up in our modern world, so I can see why there's so much advice about it. It's just not the whole picture, like it's sometimes made out to be. I'm sure you know what your circadian rhythm is, that 24-hour cycle that our bodies are made to thrive within. People who have circadian alignment-caused sleep problems often stay awake later than they want to, or wake up earlier than they want to. Or the opposite, they fall asleep earlier than they want to, or stay asleep later than they want to. Jet lag is the quintessential circadian sleep disruption. There is also social jet lag, or sleeping vastly different hours on weekends and not being able to get back on schedule during the week. Maybe we should do a whole episode about optimizing your circadian clock to your personal ideal day, because there's a lot to it, like a lot, and it can be pretty helpful actually. The strongest driver of your internal circadian clock by far is light, and the biggest strategy for everything circadian related is consistency. So light is nutritive and instructive to the cells of your body, like for real. There is healthy light and junk light, healing light and injurious light. Light and dark exposure regulate melatonin secretion, which plays a huge role in circadian biology. Melatonin is all about circadian rhythm. All the stuff about get full spectrum bright light exposure for at least 10 minutes as soon as you wake up in the morning, block all blue and green light, especially from electronics, 3 to 4 hours before bed, etc., is good advice, and it's about circadian alignment and maximizing your melatonin production. But your daily schedule outside of just light exposure is also a big factor in your circadian rhythm, especially meal times and exercise times. Well, let's say number 1 is light exposure, number 2 is wake up time, number 3 is bedtime, and number 4 and 5 are exercise time and meal times. And core body temperature is all tied up in there somewhere too. Waking up at the same time every day, even on weekends and holidays, is very helpful toward developing a non-confused circadian clock and going to bed at a regular time. But I think wake up time is more regulating. Eating at the same times every day helps your body to stay regulated to that 24-hour time period. Here's your vocabulary word of the day. I challenge you to use it in casual conversation within the next 24 hours. Zeitgeber. A Zeitgeber is an environmental cue given to your biological clock. It's German for time giver. All of these circadian things we're talking about are Zeitgebers, including exercise. We know that exercise increases adenosine pressure, but exercise also cues our body as to what time of day it is. It can influence our melatonin secretion and alter our core body temperature. Morning and daytime exercise seem to increase our melatonin and decrease our cortisol at night, and evening exercise seems to delay melatonin release and raise core body temperature, which can make falling asleep more difficult. But the real deal is that some people just feel better exercising at different times of the day, and you should just do whatever makes you feel good. As long as you're not doing an intensive HIIT workout 10 minutes before bedtime, you're probably fine and already inclined to do what works best for you. I love for intense exercise to be the very first thing I do after I wake up, so it's hard for me to fathom that people exist, like my husband, that actually prefer to work out at 4 p.m. What in the world? 4 p.m. is like put your feet up and indulge in 6 blissful pages of a novel time to me. He ends up working out with all the high school bros in their giant shorts and gold chains or whatever. That might be old news. Now it's knee socks and janitor shoes, I think. Interestingly, you can hack your suprachiasmatic nucleus, your brain's central circadian regulator, with exercise as a way to reset your disrupted body clock if needed, including as an effective way to fight jet lag. Useful. We could do a whole jet lag episode if you want. I only travel like a couple times a year, but I feel like I'm getting better at managing the jet lag with age rather than the other way around. Also, researchers have found that your skeletal muscle tissue has its own peripheral circadian clocks. Wild. When you're consistent with the types of exercise that you do at certain times of day, those clocks aid in muscular repair, protein synthesis, and glucose uptake in your muscles. In episode 254, Melatonin and Perimenopause, we talked all about melatonin and how melatonin helps decrease your core body temperature, which is pretty cool. No pun intended. But outside of the core body temperature lowering effect of melatonin, a cool sleeping environment helps both induce sleep and also maintain sleep. If your body doesn't feel sufficiently cool, you won't have good REM sleep or N3 stage deep sleep, and thus will be less restored by your night's sleep. The optimal room temperature is 63 to 68 degrees. Easier to do in the winter than the summer, depending on where you live, of course. This is all related to circadian biology as well, and why hormone mayhem during perimenopause that causes vasomotor symptoms like hot flashes and night sweats is so disruptive to quality sleep. Doing what you can to be able to sleep cool can help your circadian portion of a good night's rest. I recently bought one of those mattress toppers that senses your body temperature and adjusts to keep you the same cool temperature all night, and it has been super helpful. I debated for a long time whether to spend the money, because they're expensive, and which one to get, but I'm really happy with the one I got. Not that I've tried all the other ones, but I love it so much. Because again, remember, I hate being hot, especially when I'm trying to sleep, so it's been wonderful. Okay, so next up is arousal level, or hyperarousal. While adenosine pressure and circadian rhythm are almost entirely biological, hyperarousal is almost entirely psychological. Although your physiology affects your psychology and vice versa, so scratch that sentence. I completely take it back. We're going to talk about some chemicals produced by your body that affect hyperarousal, which is what it sounds like, a feeling that you cannot turn off your brain. Thinking, feeling, stressing, ruminating, etc. Whether preventing you from falling asleep or waking you up or keeping you up at night. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or CBTI, is super useful overall and super effective for all kinds of sleep problems, but especially for hyperarousal. They have a lot of techniques like keeping a worry journal and progressive muscle relaxation to help dissipate stress and the mental load that can keep you awake when you don't want to be. One of the best CBTI experts in the world that I heard on an interview said that meditation is all well and good, but studies have shown that it doesn't seem to improve sleep very much. Not as much as progressive muscle relaxation or other techniques like the worry journal. I'm sure that's true about the studies, but I do think that meditation is helpful. And I don't know when the study subjects meditated or how consistently or for how long in the studies, and that matters a lot. I know I feel different, like I can immediately exit my thinking and worrying super highway when I've been meditating regularly versus when I've not been. When I haven't been, I get stuck in my own thoughts and worries way more often, and I'm much more likely to believe them or think they're not dismissible. So I still think long-term daily meditation is very helpful for being able to control the incessant mind chatter and just exit from it and focus on something else. Training yourself to positively deal with stress and worry is huge. And beyond the scope of this episode, you might not identify as someone who is a stress case or a worrier, which is a good thing, but hyperarousal might still be your issue. You might have too much cortisol swimming around in your blood. You could even be in a heightened arousal state from what you watched on TV before you went to sleep. Maybe slasher films or suspenseful psychological thrillers are preventing you from fully relaxing at bedtime without you realizing it. Be cognizant of what you're soaking your consciousness in. For me, I don't think watching serial killers would bother me too much, but watching or reading the news probably would. Not that I do that because it makes me feel icky, but everyone has their own triggers. Social media is also unsettling, in my opinion. So think about what could be the case for you. Another piece of calming down your mind is having a regular bedtime routine. It's probably something you did well for your kids when they were toddlers, but it's still helpful as an adult woman to do a certain number of things in a certain order at the same time every night to keep giving your mind cues that it's time to wind down. Another part of hyperarousal is the frequently cited sleep hygiene tip of not using your bed for anything other than sleeping and sex. If your bed is where you read the news, check your dating apps, watch TV, eat, respond to email, make bids on eBay, and finish your quarterly report, no wonder your brain can't relax in bed. If instead you train your brain that your bed is only for sleeping, it makes it a lot easier not to think of any of that other stuff that is not bed stuff, so to speak. CBTI also teaches you to get out of bed if you have diagnosable insomnia and you're awake for too long at night. I'd encourage you to get the full recommendations from trusted CBTI resources about doing that. I'll put some links in the show notes. There's a really great book, and there are several free and paid apps and online CBTI practitioners. So there's a lot of help available. You just have to follow what they say to do. Okay, next up under the hyperarousal umbrella is hormonal disruptions due to perimenopause and menopause. This is probably the most interesting and possibly the most relevant to you. So I gathered a whole bunch of data, but it's so much that I'm going to have to put it in an episode of its own. So stay tuned for that. We'll dig into the probable causes and some real solutions for the classic 3 a.m. wake up that is so common for women in their 40s and 50s. We've been remodeling our master bedroom and bathroom over here. We moved a wall and changed where the shower goes and made the closet bigger and all kinds of fun things, and it's finally almost finished. We just need our cabinet guy to come back and put in the shelves and drawers and doors, but he got trampled by a horse. So that's another of many delays in our project. But all that time I spent painting and installing trim and changing light fixtures and all those things these past couple of months has gotten me a little behind on the podcast, so it'll be a few weeks before I'll have time to get that episode out. In sifting through the data, though, I've come to the conclusion that I think those hormonal disruptions fall in the category of hyperarousal, even though I haven't heard anyone else talk about it that way, but it makes sense to me. The last category of sleep is sleep architecture. This is both the quantity and the quality of your sleep. Quantity is pretty obvious. If you're just not giving yourself enough time in bed, rearrange your schedule to prioritize sleep. You don't want to be in bed for way longer than the amount of time your body is able to produce sleep. That leads to other problems, but sleep quantity is kind of an easy and obvious fix. Work up your discipline to make sure to go to bed on time. Sleep quality is a lot harder to understand. Doesn't it seem to be that way with everything? People, furniture, clothing, tools, movies. Spotting quality takes some experience to develop discernment. Other than feeling amazing all the time, I don't think you can really have a good sense of your sleep architecture without tracking it with a wearable device consistently. There are 4 main stages of sleep that repeat in 90 to 110 minute cycles throughout the night. I've heard of fancy new alarm clocks where you can set a wake-up time range and it won't wake you up until you've completed a full 90-minute sleep cycle, which would be very cool. I imagine it will become more and more common in the future, like when you aren't allowed to drive your own car anymore and your house is underwater or something. The stages of sleep are non-REM stage 1, non-REM stage 2, slow wave sleep, which is non-REM stage 3, and REM sleep. A healthy night's sleep would be 5 full uninterrupted of those cycles. Anything that messes up your sleep is necessarily going to mess up your sleep architecture. But there is also a possibility of having poor sleep architecture without other obvious sleep problems, like trouble falling asleep or staying asleep. Each stage of sleep runs its own important cellular cleanup and rejuvenation processes that are critical to being able to stay healthy and age healthfully. There is likely more to this than I understand, but the things that I can think of that cause standalone sleep architecture problems are all substances, alcohol, and sleep medications. Yes, you heard that right. Most of the commonly used prescription sleeping pills reduce slow wave sleep and REM sleep, so you might fall asleep a little faster or stay in bed a little longer, but you also most likely are having less restorative sleep. And there's a good chance you're waking up frequently in the night, but don't remember that you woke up a bunch of times and you think you slept better. Interesting. But that's not the case with the sleep medications Dayvigo and Trazodone. If you've ever been prescribed those, they don't mess up most people's sleep architecture, but most other sleeping pills do. We can talk all about sleeping medication another time if you're interested. I always have a lot to say about drugs. All of this, but especially the sleep architecture piece, is a good reminder that sleep is so much more than just unconsciousness. It's a complex biological process that rejuvenates our brain and body and emotions. And it's a process that you cannot force, which can be frustrating. All you can do is provide all of the optimal conditions and wait for your body to produce sleep on its own. Luckily, it's fully equipped to do so if we can get out of its way. I hope it's helpful for you to have this framework to evaluate where to focus your attention in the world of supposed sleep fixes. There's so much you can hear about to try that is all lovely and good, but you'll get way more bang for your buck and be less frustrated if you match the solution to your personal sleep challenge. Whether that's a problem with your sleep drive, your circadian timing, hyperarousal, or sleep architecture. All of us can benefit from good sleep hygiene. So all of those things, most of them deal with circadian rhythm, a little bit with hyperarousal, maybe a little bit with sleep pressure. So those are all good, and I would recommend that anyone start with good sleep hygiene first. But if you're still having problems in doing all the things, that's when knowing what your specific problem is so helpful because you can dig in a little bit more. In the US, over 50% of adults report trouble sleeping and up to 85% among perimenopausal women. But sleep is the foundation upon which good health is built. If we can all stop putting all of our hopes and dreams into perfectly good tools for problems that we don't actually have, we will raise our standards and reduce our frustration while creating healthier biology that is more resistant to metabolic dysfunction, immune system problems, cardiovascular disease, neurodegenerative disease, cancer, and mental health struggles. There are, of course, many other pieces to the sleep health puzzle that we didn't even touch on, like sleep apnea, restless leg syndrome, snoring, chronic pain, hypoglycemia, urinary incontinence, etc. But in all cases, knowing where to focus makes finding a solution much more likely. Thank you so much for being here today. We will get into hormone-related hyperarousal in a future episode, so stay tuned to that. Next week, we're going to talk about how to care for your most impressive organ and how the loss of estrogen makes protecting it so much harder and what to do about it. Until then, ignore sleep advice for problems that you don't have, make intelligently targeted interventions, reap the benefits of good sleep, and don't be normal. Thank you so much for spending your precious time with me today. If you found something valuable in today's episode, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a forward-thinking friend and subscribe to future episodes. Let's work together to make strong women who get elite-level care and results the rule rather than the exception. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events caused by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.